evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. I don't know if it's a good evening for some people or not, because we know it's tax day. Uncle Sam could either be collecting or you could be collecting, so that's all subject to interpretation. Nevertheless, this is your baseball crew. My name is Scott Morgan. Please be joined by Mark the Barber Maradai.
What's happening, Scott Morgan Roth? How are you?
All right, I like your jersey. Get up and show it to everybody.
Okay. I only wear this Yankees jersey because I'm a big Babe Ruth fan.
Okay, very good. All right, now if you put another 3 on there, then we're talking some business because it's my lucky number.
Okay.
But he's a New York Yankee guy. All right. And George Highcorn. Welcome back.
Yes. And happy Jackie Robinson Day to all our baseball followers out there as well. And yes, Mark, I do like Babe Ruth also.
There's just something about that guy that I like him.
I've always been more of a Lou Gehrig guy over Ruth against Ruth. But anybody that can play that many games in a row and have to deal with the disease that he had to deal with, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Lou. I mean, you two, Babe, but I've always been a Lou Gehrig guy. But you know what? We're going to start out the show with another legend in Yankee land, and that's this. Okay, well, we got Joshua Dort wants to know how many haircuts you had. Okay, go out there, Mark. How's the haircut business doing?
Oh, it's fantastic. You can't imagine how good it is. It's just so easy to take care of my own hair, too. That keeps everything 100.
Yeah, I have a feeling I'm going to need one sooner than later, but I'll leave that. Of course, I use my Motor City Madmouth hat to cover a lot of what might be a little extra. But all right, well, we'll stay on the Yankee theme. And on Monday, they did announce that legendary play-by-play radio voice, John Sterling, who was called 5,420 regular season Yankee games and 211 postseason games, has decided to retire effective immediately. Sterling is 85, okay, and will be honored on April 20th. He ended up broadcasting 64 years. The only thing I will say about this is this. Number one, George and I know it well. It's too bad that Ernie Harwell couldn't go out on his own terms initially. And we know about the controversy that took place in Metro Detroit. But that said, George, okay, because we got to go to the guy that's wearing the Yankees stuff afterwards. What are your thoughts about the career of John Sterling and how he decided to leave? And I did have an opportunity to meet him last year when the Yankees were in town against the Marlins.
Yeah, Scott, as you mentioned, he's 85. I think it was back in 1989. I think that I read that, he started with the Yankees and, oh my gosh, like you said, over 5,000 regular season games. I think over 200 postseason. He's had a reduced role, I know, in recent years and traveled less often, but still, what a great announcer. Working aside, I like Susan Waldman. She's good. They were a good team together for many, many of those years, of course. And it's always a little bit sentimental and a little sad. As you alluded to, we have the experience of losing our friend and when he even retired, Ernie Harwell. And then we've seen it in other cities, of course. Harry Carey and Bob Uecker is still in Milwaukee. God bless him. We had, every city had its own identifiable voice. Vinscully with the Dodgers and Monty Moore, I remember out in Oakland. And, you just go on and on and on. Everybody had their own Elston. And a lot of those guys have won Hall of Fame with the Ford C. Frick Award, but some of them haven't got in yet. But yeah, I'm telling you, this is a big loss for the Yankees fandom. He was a great broadcaster and an even better person.
All right, back to the chat room. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll start with Joshua Dort says, wow, I'm going to miss hearing from you and everybody else. Well, bear in mind, though, before the Yankees moved to Tampa to train, they did train in Fort Lauderdale at the old Fort Lauderdale Stadium, which is now a training center for Inter Miami. So there you go. What a shame. Now, I'm only going to do this once, Joshua, because we talked about it. I don't know what dog check means, but we'll put it up there anyway. Dog check. Okay. So that'll give them, dog check. Okay. I guess that means it's a compliment. We're on point. I don't know. All right. I love Dusty North Braden. I'm at Panama City Beach right now drinking beer and eating. Not the worst place to be. Been to Panama City Beach. A really cool place. What's up? We are there. Dusty and Lance, and last but not least, same question, duplicated, good stuff. All right, well, so Mark, some thoughts on John Sterling.
So to me, every guy that you started mentioning there, he's not only the voice behind an organization, in my opinion, he is the face behind the organization too. Because when you hear that voice, you immediately go to who the team is. If I'm making sense right now, and he transcended what the Yankees have done throughout the course of time here. People make a great relation with him, and the only other thing I'll say is all good things must come to an end. And it's time to bring in a whole new generation of these young guys that bring that same personality, because you can't replace that personality. You just can't. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And that's what baseball was all about. Now we've got a different game, even though it's still called baseball. And we'll miss all those old guys who call games with a voice and face behind these teams. Right. You get kind of sentimental, but it's kind of fun also in another perspective to watch the times change.
Yeah, they have. Mark, you make some good points too. We have a different game of baseball. Let's face it. I can only imagine what the broadcasters of yesteryear would think about the ghost runner. Okay, they would think. I don't think they make a big deal about the mound visits at all, and then the extra inning rule, which is the same as the ghost runner, and the pitch clock. But that's something that is subject for debate for sure. But yeah, John Sterling to me is what he is. And you know what? When you look at all the broadcasting baseball jobs that there are, we talk about the Dodgers. The Yankees are number one. I mean, when you think the fact you got 27 championships over there, and the history, the numbers. I mean, they're running into a situation where they're running out of single-digit numbers to put on their players. That's how unbelievable this franchise is. I mean, that's true. I guess it's a good problem when you got 27 championships in your pocket. But yeah, John Sterling, you know what? At least the one thing that I will say, and that's why we titled this show exactly what we did, going out on his own terms is going on his own terms. All right, good evening, Jeremy. And we appreciate everybody in the chat room thus far. We figure that hopefully as time goes on, we'll get more and more people, but very pleased with the people that we have in now. So so what do we have? I love Dusty is a bit of a Cubs guy. Yeah, we mentioned that. I believe anytime somebody gets a tattoo on their body and specifies Cubs, there's no more way than going out there to exemplify who your identity is. All right, back to Ballrick, we'll talk about some other things later. The pitch clock should increase the longer a pitcher goes into the game. This is why you will see less and less pitchers playing a full game. Wow, don't get me going on that, Jeremy. I do agree with you. I could devote an entire show to what you just talked about for sure. So, John Sterling, enjoy your retirement. You've been nothing but great, and I repeat, great for the game of baseball, and baseball is a better place with you. But like you say, Mark, there's a time and a place.
Yeah, always.
And now I guess he left on his own terms. All right. From one extreme to another. How about our Oakland A's? My goodness, how about the Oakland A's? Okay, their attendance on Saturday was 3,330 fans, the lowest attended game of 2024. Mark, okay, can you count up to 3,330 fans?
Listen, that's how many they said came through the turnstile. That doesn't mean that's how many were there. I mean, we all know that. That's what they'll tell you came in, but they start counting tickets sold. And, I don't know. The sooner they move, the better off they're going to be as a team, as an organization. I'm baffled by how baseball lets this happen. That's where I'm at with it. You let these teams get to that point and they get buried and people don't go to the games. They lose interest. You've lost a segment of people who have won World Series out there in Oakland because they haven't done the right things to keep people involved and interested in the Oakland A's.
Yeah, let's go back to the chat room. Okay. We're feeling we have some pretty interesting comment. Dog chat Scott was one of Ryan Hoffman's famous words. Ha ha. There's me and Josh picked up from him. Okay, you guys know the reasons behind it. Well, so now Jeremy says, well, they offer seats for 48 Lake Panthers. I don't know. I'm not even going to touch that with a 10 football. They need, and now Joshua says they do something to make baseball more exciting, bring fighting into the sport or something. Can't get me to watch the game. Safe to say that, this is in Joshua's sport, but I understand where he's coming from. All right, with that said, George, the Oakland A's fiasco.
Yes, guys, it is a fiasco. And, the downward trend has been for many, many years. And like I've mentioned on other previous episodes of this show, they've had every chance, every chance. I mean, I know that some people, folks didn't want the city or the state to help finance a new stadium, but my gosh, this has been going on for so many years since Charlie Finley relocated to Oakland, obviously from Kansas City. And he took a big chance on that, and it paid off. It paid off on the field. They had some great teams, as we know, with Reggie Jackson and Joe Rudy and all those great players, and Billy Martin and Billy Ball, and they had some good things going in Oakland. But even so, I can remember back watching the World Series or a playoff game, and they would make comments about that the game did not sell out in Oakland. This got to be tired. This got to be a routine and a broken record, I'm sure, for Major League Baseball. They were tired of hearing that they couldn't sell out. And by the way, they weren't the only ones. Baltimore back in the day sometimes had trouble selling out, I recall. And we all know Tampa and the Rays have had trouble. But the fact of the matter is they've been given every opportunity. They've been giving and the opportunity is in years and years and haven't done anything. So I think the fans, this is their way of saying, shove it, stick it. And the A's, obviously, if they get approval, final approval, will be playing in Sacramento next season. So I think that's a better picture right now, Scott and Mark, than them staying in that dismal, old, mostly vacant Coliseum in Oakland.
All right, well, let's go to the chat room. Okay, Jeremy Ballrick says he's talking about the Carolina Panthers, but you know what, Jeremy? What sport is the Carolina Panthers in? I'll guarantee you it's not baseball. Okay, what's going on, Rocket Scientist? Looking sharp. Thank you very much. Now, obviously, he's gonna wonder what I had for dinner. So, what did I have for dinner? You know what? Grape nuts. How about that? A little bit light tonight. So I ended up having grape nuts tonight. Mixed it all up. So, Mark, what can we say? We talk about the fiasco that has taken place there. I'm really looking forward to seeing them get to Sacramento. You got everything to gain, nothing to lose, considering the bad attendance numbers that we're looking at.
Yep.
I mean, these numbers are just bad. They're not even hitting 10,000. They're like,
no.
I'd have to go ahead and do my research and see how many games they've even exceeded that. And their opening day was 13,000. That was just bad. That was really, really, really bad. So
yeah,
I don't know. Go ahead, Mark.
Scott, I think there's a couple factors. It's bad baseball. Yeah, they've done nothing to entice the fan to come to the stadium and watch a team play because the team isn't playing very well. But also, in today's era of baseball, you can watch, or I should say any sport, you can watch your favorite team from the luxury of your couch for pennies on the dollar. Why would you want to get in a car, go fight traffic, pay for parking, buy food there on top of your ticket, sit there, drive home, have to get your butt up to go to your job the next day? I mean, I know it's the experience and everything. I get that piece of it, but they have made it so easy for us to watch our favorite teams from home, no matter where you're from. And,
very true.
I mean, I think that's a big part of the decrease across the board in sports. It's not just the Oakland A's are a glaring example, but I think across the board in sports, you're not getting as many people who are willing to go to games and invest their time when time is so precious.
All right. Rockin' Scientist 69. All right. You got your dog check. Okay. So you got 2 more dog checks that I usually give on a given night. For a lot of you folks that want to know what the dog checks are, you can reach out to Rocket Scientist 69 or Joshua Dora as to what Jeremy mentioned about the A's. Okay, let's go back up a little. They keep developing good talent in Oakland. Problem is, they don't pay said talent after a rookie contract. Billy Ball only works so long until the talent washes out. Fans are tired of it. Yeah, I understand that. But Mark, let me assure you, my friend, you don't have to worry about traffic jams when it comes to the Oakland A's games. Okay, and if
Yeah.
there's any traffic jams going on there, it's got nothing to do with the Oakland A's. It might be due to the heavy bay traffic going from the East Bay to the West Bay. Is what it is. I've been to the Bay Area a few times, and I can appreciate that. As for Joshua Dorr, okay, the Marlins, 4 tickets, 4 sodas, 4 hot dogs, $44. Yeah, it's not too bad. Okay. So let's see. This is Jesse. Let's see. Let's keep going. Now, Jeremy Ballrick talks about Scott Harris paying Gucci prices for some players. Javi Baez. We know right now, Jeremy, that signing has not been a very good one for sure.
And it was not Scott Harris. It was Avila that had sold.
Right.
Signed him.
Avila.
Yeah.
Right. So, like Scott Harris, if it were up to him, he would probably go out there and get rid of him. But that contract is a bit of a liability right now. So now let's go to Dusty again.
I need to respond to Candy. Yeah, 100%. More people that I know watched the college women's national championship than watched the men's. I will tell you that because they created drama. They saw one of the best basketball players in a long time play at the collegiate level. They saw a team that was incredible last year and incredible this year, who has an impeccable coach and has high character. And there's a lot of other females out there. I mean, on another podcast, I was talking about how I could name more female college basketball players this year than ever, and more than the men's this year.
Okay. All right. All right, let's go ahead and continue with the show. The chat room, Scott, I know you most likely had KFC for dinner. No, not tonight, but I have had it. Now, there, Smoking Jeremy, you should look at this. Your fan club is on YouTube. Of course, he's also got other responsibilities next week, which we'll get into later in the broadcast. Joshua George, definitely a big fan. So, all right, as we continue on. So the reality is the Oakland A's situation will finally be over in Sacramento next year. And you always want to go where you feel that you're wanted. And I think that says a lot. Final topic of the night. And then we'll let George and Mark bring up something. Shohei Ohtani meets a fan who caught his first home run of his Dodger career. The fan showed an autographed bat and ball. And I mentioned this on last week's broadcast, okay, that the Dodgers had to do something to get in front of this. They did. And you know what? Mark mentioned that Shohei Ohtani is getting publicity for all the wrong reasons lately. I get it, but the Dodgers had to move to make this thing happen. So, George, are you satisfied that this thing came to a head pretty quickly after we talked about it last week?
Yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with it, Scott. I knew that they had to act quickly. They knew it was embarrassing to their franchise and to their organization, and almost like a bully tactic that they used on this fan,
right,
this lady, and they had to rectify obviously what was a silly offer to her initially. You know what they were going to give her. So yeah, you just can't do that. First of all, the lady has the right. She got the ball. She has it in her possession. She does have the right to keep it if she wants to. So, to escort her out there right in the middle of the doggone game and whisk her away, like they said, it was bad. It was bad. So, yeah, the Dodgers have obviously reached out in a more appropriate manner, let's call it. But this won't be the last time something like this happens, because Ohtani's going to have a lot of records. He's going to have a lot of home runs, historic home runs, but also other players too in the big leagues. When Miguel Cabrera hit his last home run, for example, or when somebody gets a very important hit in their career, or 1,000 hit, 2,000 hit, 3,000 hit. So it happens a lot. But you got to do it better than the Dodgers did at first glance. Yeah.
All right, Mark. But, Mark, before you go ahead and answer that question, I want to go to Joshua Durkook. He has a good question strictly for you. Question for Mark. What are the top 3 things baseball can do to make the sport more exciting?
Well, I will be honest with you. I do like the pitch clock, and I don't think it should be lengthened because pitchers they're only expected to go 5 innings anymore, 5, 6 innings. So I think that's a good thing. Absolutely hate the ghost runner. In terms of what baseball can do, they stuck a DH now in the National League. I just think they need to put themselves out there to the fans. Baseball guys are they're so far away from the fans today, whereas other teams, you can engage them. I think that's a big thing, at least in my opinion it is. The game is slow. We all know that, but it's baseball. Okay? Josh, I don't actually have answers for that. I just know that at the end of the day that you have a lot less people from America playing baseball in Major League Baseball than you do from other countries today. And what's that tell you about the sport alone? A kid would rather go shoot basketball, throw a football, play golf than play baseball because there's nothing enticing about it. You've got to make the sport enticing so that young kids are engaged. Here's a real quick story. My son just got done playing Little League Baseball. 2 years now he's been out. But when he started playing at the minor league level, there were 6 major league teams. By the time he got to the majors, 10 through 12 or 9 through 12, whatever it is, there were 4. Last year, there were 2. This year, there is 1 Little League baseball team in our surrounding neighborhood. And they had to combine with other Little Leagues because there's no interest in getting it out there to the young kids. There's nothing. You've got to embrace the kids and get the kids wanting it.
Okay.
I think that's a good point. Yeah, Scott, if I could just add one thing.
Sure.
And Mark, and I heard the statistic the other day. They're also not getting the fathers and the coaches like they need. Scott, when you played Little League ball, I'm sure your parents were involved. Your dad encouraged you and all that.
Wow.
But now they're not getting, a lot of the fathers don't even want to coach anymore because it's too time consuming or it's too whatever. I don't like it. The dads are soccer coaches before they'll consider something like baseball coaches. So that's a problem too in the family element. I'm just saying that the fathers now are tougher to get to be coaches.
It's generational, George. I'm sorry for cutting you off. It's definitely generational. And this generation has no interest in baseball. They're interested in other things. Soccer has become more, let's face it, and this is not talking soccer down, but it's easier to take your kid Saturday morning with a pair of shorts and a T-shirt on and some pads on his legs and soccer cleats and play soccer for an hour and then go home than it is to go to baseball practice a couple of times a week and play at least one game. And you got to get him a bat, a glove. There's commitment there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue with the chat room. Okay, Joshua Dory, to follow up. Mark, I don't know if you answered it, but is MLB trying to do anything to make it more exciting?
Just the things we've seen, right?
Hey, Josh, I'm going to tell you this. I live near Baltimore, and I've embraced Baltimore as my second team. I'm actually a Pirate fan. Don't let the Yankee jersey fool you. I love Babe Ruth. But at the end of the day, the Orioles used to have Oriole Fest, and it was something my family looked forward to going to at the end of January, about 2 or 3 weeks before they went off to spring training. They stopped doing it. They stopped doing it before COVID, but it was just a really fun event. That and the fact that when you go to these events, it costs you $50, $60, $70, $100 to get an autograph from a guy. When I was a little kid growing up in Western Pennsylvania, the Pirates used to come into town. It was called Pirate Day. They used to come into town once a year. They'd sit on flatbed floats, 3 different pirates, and they would march them through town, and then they would take them down into the downtown area, and those guys would sign baseballs for free. You don't have anything like that. They do these caravans. Oh boy. But guess what? When you do the caravans, there are stipulations behind being involved in it. They want money for their autographs. That's not getting the fan. I'm not paying for autographs for a professional athlete. I'm sorry.
I don't blame you. I wouldn't either. All right. So, now we'll go with the original question before we went to the chat room. Yeah. Joshua Dorr, thanks for the Masters update. Scotty Scheffler, one in Augusta. We'll be talking a little bit more golf. on Wednesday night on the Sports Exchange. So here's another good question. Okay, Mark, I don't think you've spoken on Ohtani yet, but you will. But rocket scientist doesn't think that they have given Amber enough, or as he calls damn thing. What do you think?
Okay, Scott, we texted about this, I think. Andrew McCutchen hit his 300th home run yesterday
Right.
afternoon. First thing that happens, and keep in mind, he's in Philadelphia hitting this, where he had played for 3 years. He's still sort of like they like him out there. He's a beloved player at the tail end of his career, but he hits his 300th home run. A kid brings it to him in the locker room by choice. He gives him the baseball. Andrew signs a bat for him, sits there and has conversation with him. And he said, "I'll never forget your name. I appreciate you doing this for me. You didn't have to do this for me." If you haven't seen it, you can find the video clip out there. And it needs to be a guy like that. If Ohtani really wanted to reach out to that woman and build something with her, he would have been the one that said, "Hey, can you bring her to me so I can get the baseball from her?"
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's making himself untouchable. You can't, no, don't get near me type of person. And I'm not, like I said, I keep saying it, I'm not down with that. If you want to see something happen different in baseball, start having these guys make connections with the fans that don't cost the fans money to make the connection. Then you'll see something happen with baseball.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, very good. I hope we've touched on this one. The reality of the situation is that the Dodgers are trying to do what we call, a cleanup from a public relations fiasco is what they did. This should never have happened in the first place. But you know what? They got done. That's why we're talking about it. All right, Katie Evelyn brings up an interesting point about baseball. And that's part of it is that it's become expensive to take a family to the ballpark. No doubt about that. I mean, nowadays, and do I really like a lot of these current teams? I struggle with them. But baseball is baseball, and I'll deal with it for as long as I continue to cover the sport. All right. Well, now we have a segment here where Mark and George can go out there and talk about what's on their mind. With that said, okay, George, what's on your mind
Well,
this week in
first I
baseball?
want to address a couple of things there that you guys just talked about real quick. And I agree with you because the same thing the Detroit Tigers did, Mark, they stopped the Tiger Fest as you just mentioned, and all of a sudden can't get an answer. Don't know why they dropped it. Right around the same time you said that the other was that the Pirates. You said
It was the Orioles. The Pirates still do it.
or the Orioles. I'm sorry. Yeah, the Tigers had one too. Last part of January, and furthermore, they haven't even done the last year or so. They haven't even done the winter caravan to the other cities across Michigan. I'm just telling you, it's not just Baltimore. We got that same problem in Detroit. As far as Candy's comment there, but Candy, it's just not baseball, my friend. It's all sports. So I'm not gonna accept that as just being a single out to baseball for the family because you try taking a family to Little Caesars Arena for our basketball or our hockey team. Uh, Pistons have a few more because they can't win any games. They have a lot more ticket deals than maybe the other teams in town, but the Lions ticket prices are going up there. So I mean, it's not just baseball, but it's all sports. And the other thing is that I wanted to say, it's not every town that's canceling those fan fests, okay, folks? Because I have seen, and I try to keep up with this stuff, but I know Scott and Mark, you do too. But there's other teams, the Cubs have a weekend or Houston or Milwaukee. I've seen during the winter, they'll have it at a hotel. Fans are encouraged to spend the night or two, and the players are accessible. So some of these towns are doing it, some are not. That's what I don't like. And I'm sorry, I know every owner is different, every management team is different, but I think you nailed it on the head. They're distant from the fans. They're distant, the ball players. Either they want money, like you guys said, for the autographs,
Mhm.
or they just ignore these fans. And it's sad. And I'm sorry, they got to get back to the grassroots here. They got to get back to what baseball was, like you guys were saying in the old days, where it was so much fun, and the kids were chit chatting with the players. The players would come over there, sign those autographs for a few minutes before every game. I mean, the other thing, Scott, I wanted to mention is yes, this is Jackie Robinson Day. So hats off to Jackie Robinson, his family, his wife, his widow, and all the great things, Jackie, that you did for Major League Baseball. And I don't know if I know that Scott knows, and you too, Mark. You've both been there before. I've not been to the Baseball Hall of Fame, but they added a second plaque, which is unheard of, obviously at Cooperstown. And the second plaque talks about him breaking down the color barrier because that first plaque he got did not mention it. So the second plaque, and they're both there, as you guys know, in Cooperstown, and mentioning obviously that what Jackie did for baseball. I think it's great. And one thing I'll say is this has been good, not only under Manfred, but it started under Bud Selig as well, is to honor him today, April 15th, with players wearing that number 45. Every team has, obviously retired that number on their walls in their outfield or wherever they hang a banner. So hats off to Jackie Robinson and what he meant to this country and to this game of baseball. Thank you.
Okay, let's go back to the chat room. Joshua George says they're going to be paying people to go to the game, so I wouldn't hold your breath there. But if you want to introduce cardboard cutouts, Joshua, we might have a different conversation. But as far as this comment here, well, Candy's right. Marlins Park is not in a good neighborhood, and $26 to park right there before you even get in the door. So they made a big mistake putting it there on the side of the Orange Bowl, but this is where they're at. And if you want to see Major League Baseball, you're going to do it there. So, Mark, what are your thoughts? Give me your final topics that you want to get off your chest.
Josh, as I was sitting here listening to George talk and listening to Scott and reading the comments, I got thinking to myself, what enticed me to be such a big baseball fan as I was growing up? And it was rivalries. And I think what they need to do is redefine the divisions and make these teams be more like rivalries. Pittsburgh needs to be a rival with Philadelphia. Pittsburgh needs to go back to being a rival with the Mets. They need to go back to being a rival with Cincinnati instead of worrying about playing some of these teams that are a little bit further away. I think that would really help it. I really do. They also, at the end of the day, to make baseball fun again, you've got to add some parity to it. And that's going to come with the changing of the commissioner and bringing in a guy who has some couillons. This
George,
guy.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
That's all right.
No, I was just going to say this guy doesn't have any. He doesn't have any couillons. He doesn't stand up to anybody or anything. And as long as they continue to have one team spending $300 million and the other team spending $55 million, it doesn't entice people because they know what the end result's going to be, essentially.
Right. George, you made an interesting point. I want to expound upon that.
Sure,
okay?
Sure.
Number one, when you look at the game of baseball, okay, and I look at it the way it is, with all these things that they're taking away from the fans and the lack of engagement, that to me is a bad look. But when you see teams like the Cubs and the Brewers doing it, that shows you why they have high gates, because players care about the fans and they're great baseball towns. Now, as far as you're concerned, Mark, you talk about changing the division, they should. But remember, once upon a time, they brought in interleague play and attendance did go up. So because now you got to see. The next good move they made was instead of 18 divisional games, they brought it down to 12. I think between what Mark's talking about in terms of divisional realignment, okay, like he's talking about, okay, you might as well forget about tradition. You've already compromised tradition anyways with all these rule changes to begin with. Do what Meredith suggests. And that's go out there and realign the divisions. But I'm not the commissioner, so whatever I say, nobody's going to care. But maybe somebody will go out there and make a suggestion to do it. But I wouldn't be surprised if those are some good moves. So,
and you know what, Scott, you mentioned about the divisions, and take, for example, the situation here in Detroit. For the longest time, they were in the East. I mean, Boston, Yankees, Baltimore, those were their rivals. Then all of a sudden, in their infinite wisdom, we're going to put you in the Central. And I know geographics has a lot to do with that. Cleveland, Chicago White Sox, again, old franchises, really. And then you got the Twins, who were a later day. Kansas City was a later day, 1969. I think they joined the league. But all that being said, you were upsetting the whole chemistry of the whole rivalry, like you said, Mark and Scott. They got away from that in the situation here, and I know that was unique, but they actually plucked Detroit out and put them in with a bunch of teams that the fans, well, Cleveland and Chicago maybe a little bit, but no, they wanted to be Yankee rivals, the Tigers, the Yankees, the Red Sox, and Baltimore, etc. So
Yeah,
yeah,
but
I've seen the league make some silly moves like that, and it's affected. You're right, it's affected fan interest.
yeah, but let me tell you, you can say that, and I disagree with you. Okay, while I do think they belong in the American League East because of the rivalries, the way the Tigers have been playing baseball the last so many years, you think the Pistons had their worst record in franchise history at 14-68. With those woeful Detroit Tiger teams in that division, you could be talking to the Pistons for all the wrong reasons. So I'm not so sure there. I understand the rivalries, and you know what? You're going to see them actually in the playoffs anyways. Remember, the Tigers ousted the Yankees in a couple of playoff series. Of course, they
Yeah,
haven't been able to get
yeah.
Boston and Baltimore out of there, but that's beside the point. But I totally understand it. So, Joshua Door's giving you an endorsement here, okay, Mark, about you should put a call to the commissioner. So there you go. He's definitely he's becoming one of your biggest followers for sure. That's
I
why he
appreciate it.
continues to come on every Monday night so he can shoot the breeze with you. All right, now we'll go back to Joshua Dore, right about that. Nothing like a good rivalry, especially in NHL. Certainly endorses the rivalries and the fighting. I'm Josh. Let me tell you, many years ago when there was the original six, it's too bad you're much younger because you would have enjoyed that brand of hockey for sure. So lots of great points in the chat room as well as what you guys. Anything else you guys want to add?
Well, rest in peace. A couple of fellows died here. One of them was the wife swapper. Fritzpeterson passed away recently. And then, of course, we just heard the news today about the pitcher Holtzman that passed away. He had 2 no-hitters and a really good career. I remember him. I think he won 4 World Series titles. So Kenny Holtzman, rest in peace, 78. He died. And Fritzpeterson, I believe, was 82.
Okay. Well, I just want to give everybody a programming note. The announcement I'm going to make tonight is we're covering the NFL draft. So baseball will be off for just 2 weeks, Mark. So you'll be able to put that in your schedule. Candy and I, George, JB Ellis, and the rest of us are all going to be up there for the NFL draft. Looking forward to covering it. And of course, it being in my hometown, it's going to even be better as well. At the beginning, first 2 or 3 days, again, to see a few familiar faces. But once we hit Tuesday night, it will be nonstop. So with that said, we'll be off for 2 weeks. I'm going to bring this up as a topic, okay? Only to Mark, because we're going to address it on Wednesday's edition of the Sports Exchange. Mark only, okay? Are you glad that the Arizona Coyotes are finally moving to Utah? And, to me, I think it's a no-brainer.
So here's what I heard about that. Yes, they're going to Salt Lake City. That's going to happen. But within the next 5 years, if Phoenix commits to building an arena, they will let Arizona get a new franchise, and they will come in as an expansion franchise. So
that's what I've been hearing too. So you're right.
So I think that's kind of interesting because I don't know what the draw is there. I mean, like going to Salt Lake City, I think they're going to do well. I feel like they're going to have a really good base there, but I'm not sure about Arizona, what the draw is there. I always kind of felt like warm weather cities just tend to not gravitate to hockey, not just because it's an ice sport, but just something about it.
Well, I don't know if it's so much the warm cities that don't. I think the problem is, and George will tell you right now, that to me, that situation's been dysfunctional from the day they got there.
Yeah,
their
sure.
arena situation. So I think warm weather cities will be fine. All right, we'll go back to Josh. Okay, Mark convinced Scott to do a hockey show already. Josh, I've already told you that once in a while we'll devote a fire up to what you're talking about. So I think that's pretty much in my mind, and it doesn't figure to change. we may utilize a Thursday night once in a while to devote to the Fire Up show strictly to hockey, especially because Josh and a lot of other people are avid hockey fans. So,
Yeah.
Josh, I think that's already in the plans right now. We have a busy couple of weeks coming up. So, with that said, let's go ahead to another comment. A winning team in Arizona would sell. There was no draw in Florida, Tampa, or Sunrise until their team started winning. That's a very good point, too, Josh. Of course, we all know South Florida is a fickle sports town. If you win, they'll support. If you don't win, they won't support. Tampa, though, don't sell them short. I've been to games with the Lightning, and I'll tell you, that's the Tampa Bay area. They're excellent fans out there for sure. So, Josh, like I told you, my friend, we'll do a hockey show, and as long as Mark wants to come on, and George and I'll have no problem doing it. And really, especially as we get closer to playoff time, for sure.
And Scott, I'm going to reserve my comments, like you said, on the Salt Lake City for Wednesday's Sports Exchange. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we will go into more detail,
Sure.
And I might have another hockey topic that I think is interesting. I'll go ahead and evaluate it in the next couple of days to see what takes place as we march toward the playoffs. So for sure,
the regular season ends Wednesday. The playoffs start this weekend.
Okay, well, there you go. There's no question that I think that the hockey playoffs are unquestionably the best playoffs that there is in the four major sports. I really do.
Absolutely.
I mean, the NFL is great, one game knockout. I get it, but hockey, all those game sevens of those marathon overtime, I don't think in any way, shape, or form you're going to do any better in the postseason than that, for sure. And yes, I think they started winning way before the Panthers. That's true. No debate there. So, meanwhile, this does conclude this edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. We'll not be on the next two Mondays, but we'll return. But before I go ahead and end the show, Mark, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Well, they can watch my show tomorrow night. We'll be talking with Jermaine Jones, former NBA number 1 draft pick, number 27 overall. I believe it was Philadelphia. He's coming on the show. He's had a very interesting past, so we're looking forward to that. Next Tuesday, we'll be releasing our show with Matt Miller, ESPN draft analyst, who we have recently interviewed. He had a lot of great tidbits to give us. You can find me on all social media platforms, either OSP with Eminem or Original Sports Podcast. You can also watch us Tuesday nights on Roku. We are on from 9 to 10.
Well done. Okay, George, go ahead.
All right. I write for the South Florida Tribune. As Scott mentioned, I'll be part of the coverage along with Sideline Sports in Detroit for the NFL Draft. I wrote a book on Detroit sports broadcasting, and Scott's in the book. And Ernie Harwell, we talked about him already. He's in the book as well. And there's a link to purchase the book at the end of my column, which appears in the Motor City Tribune. So thank you, Candy, for putting that little book up in the corner there. I see it now. And you can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com, and I linked it too under my name. And you can also follow me on Twitter at SanGSports99. And I love these shows, of course, 108 Stitches, Sports Exchange, Pundits Pundit, and Fire Up, and all these other great shows on Scott and Candy's network, and as well as Sideline. So looking forward to our next show, guys, and taking a little bit of a breather, but we'll be back in a couple of weeks, like you said, Scott.
Watch us next week. We're going to be very busy with the NFL. Looking forward to doing this in my hometown. George is there. I'm heading there via I-75. With that said, Candy, take us home with all the promotions here and everything we have lined up.
If you see that red subscribe button down by George, hit it, like us, share us, tell all your friends about us. And of course, show support to all of our contributors. But go watch Mark tomorrow night. But we have other shows as well. So Monday night is baseball. Tuesday night is football. Wednesday night is Sports Exchange and Motor City Mad Mouth Show, which is a one-on-one interview show. Thursday nights is Pundits Pundit and Fire Up. You just never know what you're going to find on those shows. But if you like to listen to your podcast, find us any place you find a podcast. iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, Spotify, Spreaker, CastBox, Geo7, you name it, we're there. On top of all of that, Scott somehow had enough time and knowledge to to write about his 40 plus years in the media business. He wrote this book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. You can buy it on Apple, Amazon, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble, soon also on Google. But again, you can visit our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. If you want to sponsor or advertise, call Scott 954-304-4941. If you have topic ideas or want to be a guest, email us, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. And if I talk too fast, which I don't talk as fast as Scott, everything has been scrolling on the bottom. Go ahead, and if you missed it, go listen to us or go watch it again on YouTube. Back to you, Scott.
All right. Thank you very much, Candy. Well done. All right. Justin Pitts wants to know an updated score on the Pittsburgh Penguin National Predators. The update that we have here, the Pittsburgh Penguins lead the Predators 3-2, 18:56 left in the third period. So there you go, Justin. So with that said, this does conclude this edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. On behalf of our chat room, all of them did a sensational job there. George Eichhorn and Mark Meredine. My name is Scott Morganoff, Motor City Madball. Thank you for joining us on this edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. We will see you in 2 weeks, but keep looking for us on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel as well. We'll have a lot of great NFL stories that we'll be working on next week. So take care, everybody, and you have yourself a great night. Bye now.